Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Comic Book Users. Welcome to another episode of the show. Today, we're going to take a look at a classic from DC Comics. This is pretty much a legendary storyline in the history of Batman and Robin. It is A Death in the Family, the groundbreaking classic, written, drawn by Jim Starlin, Marv Wolfman, Jim Aparo, and George Perez. So, of course, pretty much, other than Jim Aparo, all those other three guys made a real name for themselves in Marvel Comics, right? But of course, worked together on this little storyline for Batman. So here, this collects Batman number 426 through 429 and 440 through 442, as well as the New Titans number 60 and 61. Right, so, of course, these were published Batman, in 1988. So you've got Batman 426, 27, 28, 29 in 1988 up through early 1989. And then you've got Batman 440 also in 1989, and the New Titans 441, 442 also in 1989. So really, this whole storyline ran for maybe about a year, maybe not quite, in DC Comics as the 80s finished up. And in this cool volume here, okay, this collects all of that. You get all the artwork. Very nice little package to get the entire story all in one volume. And here we have, you'll also get the covers of all of them here too as well. So book 1 of 4, A Death in the Family. And chapter 1, Jim Starlin, writer, Jim Aparo, penciler, Mike DiCarlo, inker, John Costanza, letterer, Adrian Roy, colorist, Dan Raspler, assistant editor, Dennis O'Neil, editor, and Bob Kane, creator, obviously. So here we've got, to give you a little insight into the whole story here, the history here. So apparently, fans weren't too happy with the Jason Todd depiction of Robin. And there were a lot of people writing in, a lot of complaints about the character, and maybe just wanted Batman to go on just being Batman, right? All on his own. So DC Comics put out asking for feedback, put out a survey. Do you want Jason Todd to live as Robin, or should we just kill him off? And after a while of collecting feedback, the general consensus among the fan base is that, you know what, they had enough of. They didn't want Robin around anymore. So they're get rid of him. So DC came up with this whole storyline, Death in the Family, to create Jason Todd, or to kill off Jason Todd, I should say. And basically what they did was, they came up with this whole story about how the death of his parents was really weighing very heavily on him. So as we start the storyline, he's out while they're out trying to get bad guys. He's out doing reckless stuff, and he's obviously got a lot on his mind, and Batman's constantly reprimanding him about kind of going too far and whatnot. And, just being overall really worried about him. And he basically said, you know what, until you deal with the whole death of your parents, because he had found out his mother had died, and then his father went missing. He found out his father was actually working for Two-Face, and Two-Face had killed him at some point, so now he's got no parents. So he's still a teenager, right? So he's kind of rebelling and whatnot. So he basically said, you know what, you're taking off active duty. You need to go and get your head straight, whatnot. And Jason's just whatever, right? So he winds up going back to where he was kind of living before he got together with Batman, and his mother's old neighbor had a whole box of stuff, memorabilia and things, and he wound up finding in this box, he went there to go visit, he was talking to the neighbor, he found his old birth certificate, and on the birth certificate, he sees that there was another name written as the mother that was crossed off, and then his mother, who he thought it was, written in. So he's like, wow, was my mother not my mother? Was I born from someone else? And they kept it a secret from me. And of course, he's distraught about this. But he can't really make out the name of the woman who was his real mother, his birth mother. But he knew it started with an S. So he went and found an old contact book from his father and looked for any women in there whose names started with an S. And he came up with 3. So now he's on this mission to go find these three women to see which one of them is his birth mother. Right? So that's the kind of whole gist of the story. But then, of course, during all of this, the Joker escapes from Arkham Asylum. And Batman's like, oh, God, I can't believe that this guy got out again. He wins and he goes and he winds up getting a hold of a cruise missile. Right? And he goes and he's going to go sell that. He's going to bring it over to the Middle East. Of course he is, right? And meanwhile, while this is happening, the three women who Jason Todd finds the names of, they're all doing stuff in the Middle East as well. One's in Lebanon, Beirut, and I believe, I forget where the other place was. So he's got the three possibilities. And so, but also at the same time, that's where the Joker is going. Of course, right? It's the way this always works out. So Batman then goes to Lebanon first, because that's where the intel on the Joker is. So he goes heading over there and trying to thwart this whole plan of the Joker. And then he also finds out that Jason's there as well. So then he eventually meets up with Jason, and he's like, what are you doing here? And he tells him about the whole story. So they go and they track down one of the women first, and she turns out to be this woman named Charmin. Long story short, after meeting up with her, she's not his mother. She never had a child. So they go and they interview her, and she's not the one. So then they go to person number 2. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, now we're going into book 2. All right. So now we got the three women. So Charmin Rosen, okay, she turns out not to be. Shiva Wusan, who's a mercenary, she's another possibility, and Dr. Sheila Haywood, she's in Ethiopia. Okay, so here, let's go on and find the second one. So this whole thing is like this whole kind of chase to find out all the clues to find whoever. But then we see the Joker meeting up with the third woman, and he starts talking about how, I guess they knew each other back then, and he said, that she was doing some not so good stuff back then that he found out about, that she covered up, and if that were to get out, it would totally ruin her reputation. So he basically blackmails him to help him to get some medical supplies that he's going to then go out and sell on the black market and make lots of cash, because the whole missile thing that he had before, Batman spoiled that. Batman and Robin spoiled that, so that didn't go down. So all the money he was going to get from that didn't happen. So now he's constantly thinking, I need more money. So he's blackmailing her to get these medical supplies, and he's going to replace the medical supplies with his killer laughing gas, right? Of course. So eventually, through the intel, right, Batman and Robin do catch up with the second woman. And like I mentioned before, she turns out to be Shiva, and she is like a mercenary. And so once Batman and Robin find her, she's their training terrorist, actually. A battle begins, of course. Why wouldn't it? So she knocks out Robin. And then Batman and her go at it. And eventually, pretty cool artwork in here, by the way. It's amazing how many great artists and inkers worked on Batman over the years. So eventually, Batman winds up winning this fight. And then, of course, they go to ask her the question, did you ever have a child, so to speak? And then she starts being real coy. I'm not going to give too much information, but of course Batman's got the truth serum, which he injects in her. She's of course got to tell the truth, and then the question is asked, and she goes, no, I never had a child. So woman number 2 discounted, cross her off the list, right? So then they got to go to Ethiopia now, and they finally do, and they track down the last person, which is Dr. Hayward. They do find her. So, of course, remember, she made a deal with the Joker, and basically find out that she is actually his birth mother. She had a thing going with Jason's father, But then that kind of sort of broke off. She got pregnant. He went with Jason's adoptive mother, who he thought was his real mother. So now he goes and introduces himself and says, "You are my mother," whatever. He's all happy. She's kind of like, okay, like not expecting this. And then, of course, you throw the Joker into the whole thing here. Now is where it gets really interesting. And the plot begins to thicken, because now they've got to take down the Joker and all that he's doing with the stolen supplies and the laughing gas. But meanwhile, it's like, Jason keeps talking to his newfound mother, and you get the impression that she's not all that interested in striking up a relationship with him. And then she kind of lies to him, and the Joker's in waiting there. So the Joker and his henchmen now know that Robin's there. And, of course, what happens is not good. So basically, they overtake Robin. Joker grabs tire iron there. And, after multiple strikes, basically, he has bludgeoned Robin. Meanwhile, his mom's just sitting there smoking a cigarette, not really all too worried. Batman, of course, told Robin not to go anywhere. I'm going to go deal with the Joker. You can't get involved. And then, of course, he realizes that he's not where he asked him to stay, so he knows something's going on. And then, like I said, we get more information on why Jason's mom sold him out to the Joker. She's been doing lots of things not really good. She just doesn't want her reputation to go down the drain, doesn't want to get caught. But of course the Joker has better plans, because he's like, well, now you know everything that's going on, so we got to get rid of you too. So he basically ties her up. Jason, they think he's dead, and in this little kind of building that they're in, he sets up all these explosives, and he's basically like, I'll just get rid of all of them at the same time. And then, but little do they know, Jason is still barely alive. He notices the bomb. He's like, I'm so hurt. I don't know if I can do what needs to be done to turn off the bomb. So he basically unties her. They attempt to get out before the bomb goes off. However, the door is locked from the outside. They can't get out. The bomb explodes. Yeah. And of course, just as that happens, Batman shows up. So see this page right here. It says, Robin will die because the Joker wants revenge, but you can prevent it with a telephone call. So that was that issue, right? So they hadn't made the final decision on what they were going to do here. So you had to send in, or it's a number to call, right? So you have a 900 number. Call one number, the Joker fails and Robin lives. Call the other number, the Joker succeeds and Robin will not survive. These numbers will only work in the USA and Canada between the following hours on September 15th and 16th. So 2 days you had to call in to give the fate of Robin at this point. So then, of course, when the next issue comes out, which is book 3 of 4, doesn't look too good for Robin on the cover there, right? So Batman knows something's going on. Here, once again, you got Starlin, Aparo, DiCarlo, Costanzo, Roy, Denny O'Neil, and company. And then what they do is they go and they kind of get you up to speed on what's kind of been happening, a little bit of history between Jason and Batman. And then he finds the mother. She's practically dead. And what she tells him is that Jason, kind of put himself in the line of fire when the bomb went off. But she doesn't make it, and she dies right in front of Batman. And then he goes a little ways more, and he finds the body of Jason Todd. He's gone. So basically all the callers who called in on the 15th and 16th of September, they sealed the fate of Robin. Jason Todd is pronounced dead by the Joker. And then you got there here, and they take you back. And then there's this whole other subplot of the Joker striking up a deal with the Ayatollah from, I guess it's the Ayatollah, right? The Ayatollah strike up a deal with him. He becomes like an emissary of Iran to the United Nations. Then we switch back home, and they bring the bodies back and bury them back in the States. Joker leaving his trail of blood behind. And Superman shows up. They have a chat. Superman knows of the death of Robin. They're keeping it a secret, though. And he knows that the Joker's responsible, but he's like, you can't do anything about it. He's like, why can't I? It's like, you will find out very soon. And he can't because he's now the ambassador to Iran, to the United Nations, and we really can't. He's basically, all his crimes now, he's untouchable. So Batman's all pissed off. It's like, I got to do what I got to do, so on and so forth, whatever. And then there he is, seeing his two enemies in front of him, saying, I'm working with Iran, and you can't touch me. So here we have book 4 of 4, Death in the Family. So, of course, there's an ulterior motive here. He's got this whole plot to destroy everybody in the United Nations when he goes to make this big speech. But, of course, I think Batman and Superman are way ahead of him. So next thing, and I'll kind of fast forward a little bit, so he goes and confronts the Joker, and basically lets him know that, I'm on to you. This is all gonna end, and I know what you did. And he basically gets the Joker to admit that he killed Jason Todd. He goes, that's really all I need to know. Now I know what needs to be done. So then we go to the UN, right, for the big day. The General Assembly. He comes walking in. Bruce is, of course, there, waiting for him. And then when he decides it's time to pull out his deadly gas, right, some guy shows up. First of all, Bruce goes to change into Batman. Then this cop, the security guy, shows up, crushes the gun, and inhales all of the gas, of course, because he's Superman in disguise. So that was the plan. So basically, he inhales all the deadly gas so it doesn't get to anybody. He leaves so he can go get rid of the gas somewhere safe. And he basically says to Batman, he's all yours, go for it. So here we get the craziness commences, but of course he's got other explosives, so that's going on. So he does manage to kill a couple people in the process, because of course that's the Joker, right? And then he winds up trying to escape by helicopter. Batman catches up to him. They have a battle on the helicopter. The pilot of the helicopter winds up getting killed, and then in the process, Batman and the Joker get shot. Batman jumps out of the helicopter. The helicopter crashes into a pier by the water and blows up. He's assuming he's dead, but he knows deep down inside that unfinished business once again. So then from there, we get we go into obviously issue 440, and I'm not going to do too much more in depth on here, but this basically shows kind of what goes on after the deaths of Jason settles in, and how he's just really struggling. So now everything that kind of like Robin was going through before, now Batman's going through it. He's doing the way he's going about with criminals is very, very different. He's distant. He's being more sadistic, and obviously he's getting hurt all the time. He's taking lots of chances. So here it goes and shows you how he's really lost without his partner, but also he feels very guilty about Jason dying, and about how he didn't get revenge on the Joker and whatnot. So then all of a sudden this storyline then brings in Harvey Dent. Okay, Two-Face comes into the whole story, and this whole story now is about how Batman has to be made to realize that he does need someone else as a partner. And Dick Grayson as Nightwing kind of comes back into play here. He, of course, was with the Titans, but he winds up leaving the Titans to go discover himself. He goes back to the circus to try and clear his head there. And all the while, this young teenage kid named Tim Drake comes into the picture. And it turns out he has put all the pieces together and figured out who Batman is, who Robin was, who Dick Grayson is, and all that. And he winds up going to try and get everybody together to help Batman realize that he does need another Robin, right? And so this whole storyline, and the Titans are in here a little bit too, but basically Two-Face is now here devising this whole plot to draw out Batman, to kill him, and it takes you on this whole other journey. And where it winds up leaving off is that basically Nightwing and Batman battle Two-Face, and then in the end, this new kid, Tim Drake, winds up donning the costume of Robin and goes and helps them out. So the whole final battle is them going up against Two-Face and his henchmen. And in the end, Batman is like, I don't need another Robin. I don't need what happened to him to Jason happened to you, and so on and so forth. But in the end, they kind of convince him that it could possibly work. And then Tim Drake would go on to become Robin for a number of years. So here you can see the final issue here, where he does don the costume, and he actually winds up going and saving Batman and Nightwing after an explosion, of course, put forth by Harvey Dent, Two-Face. You've got some George Perez artwork here as well in some of these latter issues, which is pretty cool. And then I'll take you to they wind up obviously defeating Two-Face and Batman confronting this new Robin, and saying, I don't know about this, but in the end, they wind up kind of coming into an agreement to see how it goes, and then they finish it off with the Joker once again back in the picture, as he always is. So very cool stuff. I think if you're a DC fan or a Batman fan, you absolutely need this. This is a required, mandatory meeting. Anytime like a big death happens in comics, right, that don't happen too often, that's definitely something you want to check out. So go ahead and you can get this. Pretty easy to get hold of this nice little volume, and it's a good one. So thanks for watching, everybody. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also, we got the link down below to the Sea of Tranquility merch page where you can get yourself a Comic Book Geezers t-shirt or coffee mug. Everything helps the channel, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon here with more stuff. I'm Pete Pardo. Tune in soon for more Comic Book Geezers. Bye-bye.